Now, it's been a big day for India at the Olympics. A lot of excitement after Mirabai Chanu got the first medal, a silver, last week. But now we are seeing that our women athletes have done extremely well. Lovlina Borgohain has assured India of a second medal in boxing. Shuttler PV Sindhu has also stormed into the semi-finals. So a lot of excitement going on. Ayaz Memon, senior sports journalist, joining us to give us a sense of what's going on. Ayaz, is India surpassing expectations this time around, and the pride that we're feeling with our women athletes at the forefront?
Well, I think, Tamanna, there are two aspects to this. Are we surpassing our expectations? Certainly not, because our projections before the Olympics started was, at least double-digit medal tally, which is not going to be possible. I think we might end up with maybe 4 or 5, which is an optimistic number. But if we do that, it'll be great. But the interesting part is, of those 4 or 5, if we get there, or maybe 6, a vast number will be the women, because we've had Mirabai Chanu, who's won the silver medal already. We've got, Lovlina, who's assured of a medal. So that's 2 of them. And Sindhu looking good for a medal also. So I think that clearly what's emerging is that India are heavily dependent on our women for medals and for excellence at the Olympics. And that is a pointer in the direction, in my opinion, and that's beyond just sports, which is that in our, social fabric, in the way we live, we need to encourage the girl child to participate far more in sports than what we've done, because that's the only way for us to become a sporting nation and, harvest a fair number of medals.
I want to come to that aspect as well, Ayaz, that when we look at the medal tally for a country the size of India, with the depth and breadth of talent we undoubtedly actually have, where do you think we lag? This is a long-standing subject which comes up every few years when the Olympics are around. But the fact is that we should be doing much better. Is there a correlation with, more developed nations with higher GDPs getting more medals because they're investing that much in technology, in infrastructure, in scouting, and in support to the athletes?
Well, there are a combination of factors. Certainly, economic well-being is a very strong factor. So if you look at the medals tally, the top 10, 12, 15 nations are all, very developed nations. But that's not the only thing. It's not just about money. Otherwise, all the Arab nations would be earning a lot of medals. It doesn't happen like that. So it's also about a sporting culture. It's about, societal issues that come in. It's about the DNA. The African athletes seem to do extremely well from Africa, from the Caribbean, because maybe there's something in the DNA, and that's being tapped properly, that's being nurtured and tapped profitably. So there are a combination of things that work towards making a country into a sporting nation and, getting these medals which highlight the soft power of a country. I think we have a long way to go. I think the demographic advantage is us. I don't think we are a poor country anymore. We are amongst the top 4 or 5 nations as far as the GDP is concerned. I think it's in providing a trust at the sports level and also at the social level. And when I say at the social level, it's also about developing a mindset which sees sports as essential to, to the evolution of a country. And that's why I mentioned about the women folk and the girl child, because if we keep 50% of our population out of participation in sports, how the hell can you become a sporting nation?
Yeah, the other aspect of it is also the trust that Indians have on education, which is great. But sports is not given the same kind of importance. They're trying to change that with the new education policy, but the implementation is far off, isn't it, Ayaz? I mean, you have nations where if you excel at sports, it gives you good enough grades to go ahead. That's not necessarily the case in India, where academic excellence is the bigger focus.
I must say it's changing. It's changing. It's been changing over the last couple of decades. It's not that, पढ़ोगे लिखोगे तो बनोगे नवाब और खेलोगे कूदोगे तो बनोगे खराब. That mindset, I think, is in the past. I think that more and more it's being acknowledged that sporting excellence provides livelihood, provides fame, also provides money, etc., etc. But I think that needs to be done on a more bigger scale. So when I talk about women, it's only about, as my kind of, research suggests, that about 8, perhaps 7 to 8% of the girls in this country get easy access to sports. And that is a huge statistic, because if it's, your 7 or 8% access to sport is giving you 50 or 60% of the medals you're winning, you know where you're losing out. That's what needs to be corrected. It's not just about the women, it's about changing the mindset of families, of communities, and saying, hey, we need to get, if you want to be a great sporting nation, we have to encourage all the children in our homes, in our communities, in our villages to participate in sports. You can't pull them out because they become 10, 11, 12 years old and say, nahi, abhi ladki ko hum bahar nahi bhej sakte. That is going to be a huge handicap, for which, frankly, there's no remedy. There's nothing that the government can do or anybody else can do unless people themselves are willing.
While I have you here, Ayaz, this raging debate about the pressures that sports people face and this time around are willing to speak up about it. Simone Biles, that whole situation where she said, I can't take that pressure anymore. Naomi Osaka coming out of the French Open. And one side of the debate says that, hey, if you're going to be in competitive sport, be ready to take that mental pressure as well. Where do you weigh in on this debate?
Look, I think it's significant what's coming out from these athletes, because they are world-class athletes, they are winners, they are champions, they are multiple medalists at the Olympics like Simone Biles is, or Grand Slam winners like Naomi Osaka. So it's not something that can be dismissed. But the spectrum is wide. I mean, I've been kind of reading up, because this is a blue sky scenario even for me, because normally you would wonder and say, unless you are attuned to absorbing pressure, how can you become a champion? But here there are champions who are saying, this is unfair pressure. I mean, what they're in a way saying is that I would rather not be a champion if this is what I have to undergo, because it's not worth it. It's suppressing me and promoting a medal, and that's a massive statement to make. But I also feel, and this is interesting, that what Naomi is saying is very different from what Simone Biles is saying. So, for instance, Simone Biles is raising actually a red flag on the way the American Gymnastics Federation has worked, including coaches who've been molesters, who've exploited young girls, etc., etc. From Naomi Osaka, who just, in a broad sense, has spoken about the pressures of being just a champion athlete. So we have to wait and see. I mean, these are very early times, but clearly what's emerging is that the mental aspect or mental health of athletes is becoming a big issue, and it will become an even bigger issue as we go ahead. We don't know what how it will unravel, but it's really significant.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ayaz, for speaking with us. Pleasure as always.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamana.
All right, that's all the time we have on the India Development Debate, as we look forward to cheering on our champions, whether they win the medals or not. Just the fact that they made it there. Imagine the grit and determination it takes to make us proud. We'll be back after this very short break with Reboot India. Stay tuned.